Over the past several weeks, 12 News has aired a series of reports on our state's school choice laws. And much of the focus has been on suspected fraud that's been discovered in empowerment scholarship accounts, or ESAs. Those accounts allow parents of private and homeschooled students to get state money for a child's education. A small percentage of that spending has been found to be on inappropriate items. And joining us today is a big supporter of school choice, Jenny Clark. You're from the group Love Your School. Thank you for being here, Jenny. I appreciate it. Now, you've gotten very close to this. How did you start being such a big supporter of ESAs?
Well, I started Love Your School because my own children were diagnosed with dyslexia, and we live in a phenomenal school district. But unfortunately, that school district did not have the services to adequately meet the needs of my dyslexic kids. So we got on an Arizona ESA, and it totally transformed my kids' lives.
So a lot of criticism of this program, and one of the things that a lot of people say is you are taking money from public schools.
Well, in Arizona, money has always followed the child. If you go between district schools, right, the money doesn't stay at the district you left. No, it follows the child to the other district. Same thing if a child moves out of state. The school no longer receives funding for that student. Exactly the same thing with an ESA. But in the case of an empowerment scholarship, taxpayers are actually saving money. And that's because the ESA is only 90% of the state funding. No local dollars and no federal dollars. So taxpayers save when kids go on an ESA.
Well, what if I'm, and this is another complaint I've heard, a wealthier taxpayer, and I decide to send my kids, say, to Brophy, and the state's kicking in on that. People saying, well, why is the rich guy getting the money for his kids?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because the state would be paying for that student if that kid switched from that Brophy school and went to the public school system. So right now, Arizona pays for wealthy families all the time to go to public school. Why not give them the same opportunity they'd have at public school with an empowerment scholarship, which is roughly half of what Arizona's per student spending is in total. So
about $7,000, right?
About $7,000 to $7,000.
But if I was going to send my kid to Brophy anyway, and I'm getting $7,000, should I be getting that?
Absolutely.
If I was going to stay at Brophy no matter what?
Absolutely.
Why?
Because public education is great, but it's not for every student, right? And we recognize that education is a public good. We want families to have control of their education dollars and be able to put their kids in the education environment that works best for them. You know, a lot of people don't know that this program has a large majority of kids who have special needs than the regular public school system.
And they'll get extra money, correct?
And they'll get
a special needs child can get tens of thousands of dollars.
That's exactly
based
right.
on their need for care.
Still
correct?
only 90% of what the public school was getting, but that's correct. And so a lot of these kids have autism, are in specialty private schools, have diagnoses like my kids, and we're able to do more for our kids with less money. I think that's a win-win.
But public schools are saying, wait a second, we're having to close schools now. We're losing so many students that we can't keep our schools open.
Well, the data just doesn't support that narrative, though. And let's take Paradise Valley Unified as an example. They have 3 school closures, and it's really easy to kind of blame ESA. But when you actually look at the data, Paradise Valley Unified is losing more students to public school open enrollment in Scottsdale Unified than they are to the ESA program.
People moving from public school to public school.
To public school. And you know what? That's okay. That's a good thing. Again, we want families to have choices. As I mentioned before, you know, Arizona is in a crisis right now. Our kids are not reading proficiently at grade level. Only 26% of 4th graders on the nation's report card were reading proficiently. That should scare every Arizonan. That should scare every taxpayer. So we need to attack that problem with every solution, including school choice.
So what about if I'm living in a poor district, you know, we've got 2 working parents not making a lot of money. They can't afford to take their kid and go across town to go to another school. So they're at that school that's losing students. They're stuck there.
Well, being stuck there doesn't mean that that's necessarily a bad school. One of the things that people don't realize in Arizona is that a lot of those schools in what you would define as a lower income area or lower socioeconomic status, they're getting significantly more dollars per student. In some cases like Roosevelt, you're talking $22,000 per student to make up for all of those additional gaps that the family might be experiencing. So I reject the idea that just because some kids are leaving for an ESA, that means that the students that are, you know, still at that school are somehow worse off. They're not.
All right, and I just got told that we're out of time, but I've got to bring this up. I'm sorry I kept it till last. We have found, Craig Harris, one of our reporters here, has been really covering the story, and he found things on ESA reimbursement forms, up to $2,000. Right now, you automatically get reimbursed on what you spend, and then they go back and they audit it, risk-based auditing. They go back later and audit it. But he found lingerie and diamond rings and things like that. What do you think when you hear that?
Well, no amount of misspending is appropriate. 99.9% of parents on the ESA program are using the funds according to the law. We have less than 1/10 of 1% misspending in the ESA program. That's one of the most accountable government programs in the entire state of Arizona.
So, and I've seen that you've stated in the past that there's more fraud in public schools. What do you mean by that, and how do you
Yeah,
prove that?
absolutely. I mean, just, we can look at the news in the last couple of years. I mean, we have a school superintendent that had 18 felony charges, which the attorney general dropped down to a single misdemeanor. We have a superintendent that just this year got $450,000 payout for a sexual harassment claim. Those two situations together are more fraud in the public school system than the entire ESA program. So we have to put it into context.
But a lot of people are saying it doesn't seem right that they can go up to $2,000, no questions asked. But you're saying there are questions asked.
There are questions asked, and again, risk-based auditing is very common in government programs, and Arizona ESA program is one of the most accountable in the state.
All right, thank you for coming on. Appreciate it.